everybody, and welcome to Leading Entrepreneurs of the World. Leading Entrepreneurs of the World is one of the most comprehensive entrepreneurial platforms and events in the world and features entrepreneurs, founders, and business leaders presenting on cutting-edge topics and the latest industry developments. Our goal is to provide the global business and entrepreneurial communities with a window into the minds of those who are shaping the future of our world. Today, we are very pleased and very happy to welcome leading global serial entrepreneur and healthcare leader, Max Ostermeier. Max Ostermeier is the co-founder and CEO of Implant Data Ophthalmic products. At Implant Data, Max and his team develop and offer transformative products and solutions that are addressing a vastly underserved need in care of glaucoma patients by combining innovative medical technology with state-of-the-art information technology, creating groundbreaking solutions for better and more efficient glaucoma therapy for the benefit of glaucoma patients and their families. Previously, Max was a co-founder and the CEO of Odicrain GmbH, a German medical device startup, developing a new-to-the-world portable medical device for rapid detection of intracranial bleedings, which was acquired by a US-based company in 2007. Max was also a co-founder and CEO of Cranium Telemetrics, a medical technology company with innovative neurosurgical products whose technology was acquired 4 years after foundation by a leading US medical devices company. Prior to that, he was instrumental in creating for a global leading fine chemistry company their biotech entity, where he served as general manager and vice president until the company was acquired by Sigma Aldrich. Max, it is a great pleasure and an honor to have you here with us today to hear more about digitally enabled remote glaucoma care. Thank you and welcome to Leading Entrepreneurs of the World.
Thank you very much, Stelios, and very much appreciate your kind introduction. And very appreciating the opportunity to present our company and our project and our plans for the future on this excellent platform. So Stelios already kind of lined out my background. You know, I do have an MBA. I worked for several years in biotech, biochemistry. And then in 2001, I started to found my own companies, medical device companies, which I successfully exited. And to be true, you know, there have been also projects where we decided early on not to continue because we found out that either the technology is too early or the need is not there as we initially expected. So not every venture really works out well, but it's better to find out early. And since 2010, I'm running now Implandata. And beside my very busy professional career, you know, I really like to do sports. I like everything on boards. You know, I like kite surfing. I like windsurfing. I like snowboarding. So any kind of sports related to boards, I really enjoy a lot. Okay, so let me talk about Implandata and what we aim to realize. You know, our mission is really to improve the life of millions of glaucoma patients all over the world. And for that, we have developed the breakthrough IMED system for remote disease care, for remote management of patients. And let me explain why that is important. So glaucoma, as you may know, is a chronic eye disease, primarily age-related. So the older a person gets, the higher the risk to develop glaucoma. And since we all get older and older, the number of patients will grow significantly in the coming years. Glaucoma is a leading loss of eyesight. And it's really the bad thing about glaucoma is causing permanent loss of eyesight and can eventually lead to blindness if the disease is not well controlled. There is a wealth of treatment options to treat glaucoma patients. And you have to understand glaucoma is a pressure-related disease, means that increased pressure inside the eye is causing damages to the optic nerve, which over time results in loss of eyesight. So the only thing to treat glaucoma patients is to lower and control the intraocular pressure or the eye pressure. And that can be done by medication, that can be done by non-invasive procedures, and that can be done also by invasive procedures. So there is not a lack of treatment options. The big challenge today in treating or managing glaucoma patients is that it's only eye center based. Resulting in millions of office visits by glaucoma patients every year, not only in Europe and US, worldwide. And typically, a glaucoma patient is seen by his eye doctor every 3 to 4 times, or every 3 to 4 months a year. And in between this office visits, the disease status and most importantly, the therapy effectiveness is completely unknown. So what always is done in the office, they kind of check the visual field, they check what the eye pressure is, but especially the eye pressure, it's only a snapshot. And in many cases, these measurements are biased because patients, knowing I have a doctor's appointment, they take their medication prior to the doctor's visit, and then the eye pressure is normal, as for any patient or any person, but since the last visit, the visual field deteriorated. And then, the eye doctor asks himself, what's going on with this patient? The pressure seems to be normal, but he's still losing eyesight. And that's really a big challenge to glaucoma ophthalmologists, glaucoma doctors, to understand what's really going on with a patient in real life. So the other big challenge in glaucoma management is, as I said, it's a chronic disease. Patients have to take eye drops, medication to really lower the eye pressure. But as for many chronic diseases, therapy adherence is not always good. And it's especially bad for glaucoma patients because glaucoma patients, increased eye pressure is asymptomatic. They don't feel, that the eye pressure is just too high. So there is no way to really self-monitor their disease. And that also results that many patients are not so compliant to take their medication. So these are the main challenges, that care is primarily based on office visits. And in between office visits, it's completely unknown to the eye doctor as well as to the patient how effective a therapy really works for the patient. So in order to resolve this problem, we have developed the iMate system, which is a breakthrough device. I'll talk about that in a little bit, for remote glaucoma care. And so basically, this product consists of a tiny biosensor, a tiny permanent implantable microsensor, which is placed surgically right now, either in conjunction with cataract surgery or glaucoma surgery. And it's really staying there permanently. It's placed behind the iris, so you wouldn't, and of course the device is much smaller, as you can see here. And patients don't see it, they don't feel it. And it's really providing continuous measurement of the pressure inside the eye. And then you have the patient handheld device, which is required for the powering of the sensor implant and also responsible for the data readout. And then it's displayed here to the patient. And from that handheld device, it goes straight into a web-based database where all the patient data is collected. From there, the eye doctor has access to that data, to his patient's data, and he can really see what is my patient's situation, what is the eye pressure, is my therapy effective, does it really work for the patient, so is the eye pressure lowered? And that allows the eye doctor really to early on adjust therapy when needed, and most importantly, to personalize treatment. As said, there's different medications with different working principles, and each patient responds differently to medications. You always have to find out in that regard. You can compare it with hypertensive patients, where you always also have to titrate therapy and really find the most effective therapy for an individual patient. Evenly important is that patient empowerment. So by self-monitoring, patients can really be active and they can be involved. And we have also done a patient smartphone app by which they can also follow their disease status and most importantly, see therapy effectiveness. And that's really motivating them to take some medication, to be really adherent to therapy. So at the end, it's a complementary system or a comprehensive system of enabling devices. But the real deal is the data, the information we are providing to the eye doctor as well as to the patient, enabling personalized care and better treatments. And I think that's also important to understand from a business point of view, because we have two revenue streams. We have on the one hand revenues on the devices, and that's very classical, I would say. But most importantly, we also are able to generate sustaining revenues, recurring revenues for the remote patient monitoring service and for the data provision we are supplying to the eye doctors as well as to the patient. I'll come back to that in a little bit. But I think from a business point of view, it's very attractive because it's a very solid long-term business model we are able to establish. Let me show you a brief video which kind of further explains and kind of gives more color.
iMate. Take control of glaucoma, anywhere, anytime. With age, your eyesight deteriorates. It's endangered. Glaucoma is a chronic eye disease. It's caused by increased pressure in the eye. If glaucoma is not controlled and treated properly, it can lead to vision loss and eventually blindness. To identify the best medication and check whether it's actually working for a patient, measuring pressure inside the eye is critical. Until now, measuring eye pressure was a procedure that could only be performed by trained medical staff. But measuring eye pressure now and again simply doesn't provide enough information on whether the eye pressure really is under control. Are you a glaucoma patient who wants to reduce the risk of losing your vision? Then iMate can be your solution for better controlling your glaucoma. For the very first time, iMate enables patients to measure their eye pressure themselves, anytime, anywhere. As a patient, you understand if your medication is working for you or if it needs to be adjusted. iMate is a tiny implantable pressure sensor that's inserted into the eye during other eye surgeries, such as cataract or glaucoma surgery. The harmless microsensor is placed permanently inside the eye, but the patient can't feel it, and it doesn't affect the vision. Measurement is initiated by the patient and telemetrically read out with a handheld device. After measurement, the data is sent and recorded to an app on a device of your choice. The system helps you fully understand what your eye pressure is and share this information with eye care professionals. It allows eye specialists to pinpoint the therapy that works best for you to reduce and control eye pressure. The iMate system has been extensively tested and has proven safe and useful for years at a time. Patients who use the iMate system report that it makes them feel empowered and gives them peace of mind. If you want to learn more about whether iMate could help you, contact your eye doctor. iMate. Take control of glaucoma, anywhere, anytime.
All right, I think that really nicely explains our system and really gives more color, how it's used and what the benefit is.
We have done a lot of patients so far, and this is the most satisfying part for me, because the patient's feedback is extremely positive. And the reason is because, as pointed out, it's empowering them. It gives them certainty, for any disease, and especially for a disease by which you can lose eyesight. Uncertainty is the last thing you want to have as a patient. You really want to know what's going on. Is your disease under control? Is your therapy working for you? And it's important, not only do that every 3 or 6 months with the eye doctor, but do it at home. So this self-monitoring is really empowering patients, and it's really reducing their worries about unnoticed disease progression. So they can really act. And as I said, patients really see the value for them because it provides important information to them. And that's therefore it's reasonable that nearly all patients would recommend our system also to other patients. Evenly excited are the eye doctors, because now they have real life information. Instead of having only a few data points over the year, they have thousands of data points. And so they have much more reliable information on how patients are really doing and how a certain therapy is working for a patient. I'll show you some examples in a little bit. So this kind of concept of remote monitoring of patients and remote management of patients got even more attention with COVID-19. You know, now everyone talks about remote patient care, digital health, and it's even more in the center as it has been in the past. So let me show you some examples how impactful our device really is. You know, here you can see a patient where measurements were taken for 1 year, and each single dot is a measurement with our device. And typically you want to have the pressure, the eye pressure below 20 millimeter mercury. Anything beyond 20 is really bad to the patient's eye, and it really causes loss of eyesight. And here you have a patient, you know, where initially you saw a lot of fluctuations, high pressure peaks, and especially such a situation is devastating to the patient's eye. And with that information, the eye doctor really was able to find the optimal treatment early on. And finally, he found the best medication for that individual patient. And since that time, the eye pressure is under control. It can change over time. You know, it's not the case that this will work for years and years and years. Next year, 1 year after, you know, you might have to adjust the therapy again. As said, we're collecting thousands of data points. Standard of care would only provide a few data points here. And if you're unlucky, you know, and the patient shows up at 9 in the office where the pressure is around 15 anyhow, and then the eye doctor would believe everything is fine, everything is under control, but he would miss all this fluctuation in high pressures. And that's really why eye doctors have a hard time to really decide or to find out if a therapy is really efficient for a patient. I want to show you another example. You know, at this patient, there was an eye surgery done to lower the eye pressure. You know, you always start first with medication, but if medication does not work for a patient anymore, then at a point of time you have to do eye surgery to lower the eye pressure. But also that has only a limited effectiveness. And here you can see a patient where already after a couple of months, the pressure started to rise up again. It was early on, it detected, and they did a revision, and with that, they were able to lower the pressure again. Also in such a situation, it's very important, you know, to closely control if a therapy is effective or not. In the best case, you have something like that. You know, here we have a patient where the disease is well under control. Pressures, you always see fluctuation because it's a physiological parameter, but overall it's below 20, narrow range, and that's good for the patient, and it's also good for the eye doctor because the eye doctor knows, okay, my treatment is working for the patient, and the patient is happy because he knows my disease is under control, and so the risk to lose eyesight is close to zero. So, and that's really what you want to see. You want to have a well-controlled, stable glaucoma because that ensures preservation of the eyesight of a patient and also preservation, of course, of quality of life for a patient. I think these are kind of nice examples and cases showing and demonstrating the value. As pointed out, you know, this is a patient, he got the sensor now for 8 years, and he's still taking 3,000 readings every year. And as pointed out, you know, standard of care would only provide 2 or 3 random data points, which are just not reflecting a patient's real situation. So what have we accomplished so far? So we have obtained regulatory approval in Europe. So we are CE marked under the new European Medical Device Regulation in regard of reimbursement. So are already codes in place for the surgical component and also for the remote patient monitoring component. And most importantly, and we are really proud about that, we also obtained this year breakthrough device designation by the FDA. So FDA breakthrough device designation is only for products addressing an important need, so-called irreversible debilitating diseases, and you have to provide something better than standard of care. So it has to be a real breakthrough, and I think we are very happy to have obtained this breakthrough device designation because that means an expedited approval process in the US. And besides that, it means that we are also entitled for reimbursement under the Medicare coverage for innovative technologies program. And in addition to that, there are already very attractive remote patient monitoring CPT codes in place, which makes also the business case in the US even more stable. So bottom line, we are ready for commercialization in Europe, and we are ready to get really started with the FDA approval process to be able to also enter the US market in foreseeable future. We have done extensive testing of the product. We have done plenty of patients where we demonstrated safety, performance, and efficacy of the product. We published this data in high quality papers. And I want to address, put your attention to one paper we just did. We did a study on patients during the most intense lockdown period in Europe, where we have been able to also demonstrate that with our system, patients can safely and reliably managed remotely. So in times where eye doctors are not allowed to see their patients and patients are not able to see their eye doctors, it's very important that these patients are still managed. And at 1/3 of these patients, the therapy was adjusted remotely, which is really great, but it's even important or evenly important, to understand that the patient's disease is under control. I said, because you want to be sure that a chosen therapy is really working for a patient. So we are a strong leader in this field. We have obtained CE mark and we have gone through the whole validation process. There is several competitors, but they are still early. They are still working on technology development while we have gone through that whole validation cycle. And so we have at least a timely advantage of 3 to 4 years against competitors. So it's great that there is competitors, because it really validates that there is a need, that there is an unmet need, and that there is a market. But it's at the same time great, to be ahead of this crowd and to be able to implement or establish ourselves as a leading solution provider in remote glaucoma care. We have a nice pipeline. We are already working on next generation, less invasive devices, an injectable sensor, not requiring eye surgery anymore. By that, we can address the patient population significantly. And we are also integrating the sensor in other therapeutic devices like intraocular lenses for cataract patients. There is approximately 30 million cataract procedures every year worldwide. And out of that patients, approximately 20% do have also glaucoma. So by such a smart intraocular lens, we can address an even larger patient population. And I think in the long run, any cataract surgery or any cataract lens will have a sensor integrated, because with that, you can early on detect if there's a glaucoma situation coming up. So in regard of our go-to-market strategy, as pointed out, we are right now launching in Europe with selected eye centers across Europe in order to perform the market validation. We have obtained the breakthrough device designation and will start an ID study next year. And we are also starting studies in Asia next year, because also the Asian market, of course, is very, very important and attractive, especially since the number of glaucoma patients is also growing significantly in these territories. And then, in the years after 24 and further, we will further expand into the market. And for the US, as well as for Asia and for China especially, we might work with strategic partners, having already a marketing and sales infrastructure in place to further push our product into the field. And, our long-term goal is really to implement the IMED solution as a standard of care. I think that's certainly what we are decided for. So very brief on reimbursement. As said, there is very attractive reimbursement codes established already in the US, and these are for remote patient monitoring. So it means that the eye doctor can make up to $150 a month per patient just for this remote patient monitoring. And that can be done even by a clinical staff and has not to be done by the eye doctor. So for the eye doctor is a high incentive to kind of establish this remote monitoring and management system, because it allows him to be more efficient and see more patients. And as pointed out, the number of patients will grow significantly in the coming decades, while the number of eye doctors will rather remain stable. So what does that mean for Implandata? So we will make per patient per month approximately $38. And if you would assume a market penetration of 5% at estimated 3 million eligible patients only in the US, that would result in revenues recurring revenues of close to 70 million. And if you are able to even gain 50%, I think we will be somewhere in between. I'm not saying that we will be 5 or 50%, but I think realistically we will be somewhere in between. But I think this should only demonstrate the potential value of our business. And as I said, this is recurring revenues. Once you have a patient in the system, you are able to do revenues for at least 10 to 15 years. And set numbers still don't include other eligible codes, or also does not include the devices we are selling. So that will be on top. But I think this should really demonstrate to you what kind of business potential we are addressing. So let's talk briefly about the team. We have a very international team, I would say. Besides myself, we do have Stefan Meyer, who's the CTO. The two of us have been working in the US in the past, and for the last 20 years, we are working together. We also did the other two companies where we exited. We have Chris Moore. He's our first employee in the US. He's our chief operating officer. He has a background in EMR ophthalmic systems. Then we have Dr. Mansouri as chief medical officer. He's one of the leading glaucoma experts in the world. And we have also a very US-centric board of directors. Dominic Arena, he has a history in private equity, but he also founded his own medical device companies in the past. Dr. Weinrib, most probably the most well-known and respected expert in glaucoma. He's certainly #1 in the world. We are very happy to have him on the board. And he is also a shareholder of the company. Then we have Kiefer. He's representing Heidelberg Engineering. They are a world market leader in ophthalmic imaging products. So he joined our board as kind of an industry expert. And then Klaus and Ulrike are kind of representing our investors. Our strategy is really to position ourselves for a strategic partnership and finally for an acquisition. And that's a very common model in eye care. I show you some examples, about acquisitions in the last years where large companies like Allergan, like Alcon, like Santen acquire disruptive companies or disruptive technologies in glaucoma space. And these companies are really acquired at high premiums. Some of them even prior to FDA approval, prior revenues. And that's a kind of a typical thing you can see in eye care. That companies like Alcon or Allergan or Bausch + Lomb, they are very aggressive in buying new technologies. Their R&D is really M&A. They really like to include, or they're not so much in product development or research. They are really more in kind of finding opportunities and then integrate it into their product portfolio. And as long as there is a strategic fit, they're really, that's the model they are running. Besides that, we have also some other potential strategic partners and potential acquirers. And we are in contact with all these firms, so we really understand what they need to see for a partnership and also in regard of an acquisition. So we know exactly what needs to be done. So what's up next now for Implandata? So as pointed out, we are right now tapping that 1 billion market opportunity in Europe. We have CE mark, and that allows us really to introduce our products in Europe and also in certain Asian markets. So we are right now in discussions also with regard to strategic partnerships for the Asian markets, especially for China. As pointed out, that's a very interesting market opportunity for us. We are working on the US regulatory approval. And in future, we will also first expand our services. As said, we have a full pipeline of next generation products, not only on the sensor side, but also on the digital side. We will also integrate further disease information into our digital platform, by which therapeutic decisions can be made even more sound. I think we are providing a very critical and very important parameter driving glaucoma therapy, but by integrating further information, we can make it even more powerful. So at the end, we will be a remote disease care company. And we are also right now working on a next funding round, which we hope to close early next year, to really fund all these activities and to position ourselves as the leading company. So I think we are really on our way from vision to reality. Maybe 5-10 years back, This was really vision, you know, and far away from reality. But we have met, or we have accomplished very important steps to establish the IMED system as the new solution or the new standard in glaucoma care. You know, what's done today in glaucoma care or in the management of glaucoma patients, that's really old fashioned, you know. Patient goes to the eye doctor, they do a check, and then 3 or 6 months later, he shows up again, they do another check. And in between, you know, there is no way or no understanding at all, you know, how effective a therapy really is. And we are bringing care and management to the patient. So we collect data at the patient under real life conditions. And this data is provided to the eye doctor, and then the eye doctor can really remotely manage this patient. So we are really establishing a new standard. You have seen that also in other areas like diabetes, you know, that's I think is a very successful model in diabetes care, and we will do the same in glaucoma care. So I think that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. Here you can see my contact details. If there's any further informations or suggestions or recommendations, or also maybe a wish to talk about a potential partnership with us, please reach out to me. I would be really delighted to kind of talk to you and find out what your interest is and what your answers, questions are, just to answer them. All right. Again, thank you very much for your kind attention, and looking forward to hear from you.